Okay, so welcome everybody to the October 2023 koha-US Web Dev SIG. We have some new people here, which is exciting. This is this SIG we talk about all things breaking Koha and making it more fun. So HTML, CSS, etc., jQuery. Is there anything anybody wanted to talk about specifically today?
I have a question about let's say that you wanted to run some jQuery, but only right when the user logs in. Just have it run one time when the user first logs in, but then not run again, no matter where you go through Koha. So like I came up with an idea that sort of seems to work. Um, I pasted it in the Koha community jQuery channel, but nobody replied. Nobody saw it, maybe. But so my idea, I tested it. It's like to add a little like URL query parameter to the end of like the forms action URL. So it'll say like login equals true or whatever. And then you can have like on intranet.js, it would say if the URL says like login equals true, then we know that you just came from this login form. And I was able to test it. It kind of seemed to work, but then I realized that we on our real server we have SSO and it's all a little bit different. So I was just wondering if anybody had a solution for that kind of idea.
The only thing I can think of is using like a session storage cookie, like storing it after they log in that they've logged in, and then you've got that persistent until they close the browser again. I've only used that like once, and I have to dig up where I've used it, but I can give you a little code snippet of that. But I don't know if
Or
that's
like, is there a way to like check the freshness of their cookie, of a certain cookie maybe? So you could tell like when you first log in, you have like you have until that cookie expires, right? So if it was like a way to check like how fresh is your cookie, then run the code if it's brand new. But I don't know, like that doesn't seem like it's very will be very much to control it to be like run one time when you log in and never again.
so you're wanting it to happen like once every time they log in,
Yeah, the
or
idea is
once
like
ever.
yeah, well, like once when you like every time you log in, it will run once. But then if you're stay log in and you keep browsing around Koha, it won't run again.
I think I want to say it's doable, but I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But yeah, I think that the session storage could do what you're asking, like
Yeah,
because you can
I'm gonna look
store
into it.
something in there. I'm not actually using a session storage. I'm using local storage in this little clip. I could put it in the chat though, and I'm using this for my savings calculator on Flips, which is this is not recommended at all because I think they fixed it where you can do that in template toolkit now. But it keeps the borrower number in a cookie, so then I can leverage that for running the slip thing. And it's been a while since I looked at that, so it could be like I can't explain
Ah,
it.
that's no that
So
I think that could be an option.
we're not actually on Koha yet, so I probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But here's the idea that pops into my head. You could do something like when the person hits the submit button on the login to write a cookie with a 1, and then the page then checks is the cookie a 1 or a 0, and if it's a 1, it does what you want it to do, and then you set the cookie to 0.
Uh yeah. And I guess that could be done with local storage or session storage. It doesn't really matter.
Well, hopefully that gives you something to play with at least, and you can report back next
No, I
month.
think this, yeah.
Um, other stuff, other things, cool stuff you've been doing, things you want to share, questions you have.
One other thing that, like, the first jQuery, I guess, like, that I put in our production thing was, we're using a certain plugin to generate the bills and do like those mail merges for the bills. So they have like the form where they can go to fill out the form and generate those bills. But to make it easy, we got the URL, so like it's like pre-fills the form, and then get the logged in user's branch code and stick that into the URL. So if you're looking at our links, it will just say, like, you know, the bills, all outstanding bills, or like new bills today link, and it just automatically takes them straight. They don't have to fill out the form at all. So that was kind of the only thing that we've like put into our Koha so far, really.
I'm
Seems
I'm
to
scribbling
be,
that down because that's a good idea, and I haven't done that.
I can paste into the code. I put it also, it's in the Slack. Let's all use the Koha community jQuery Slack. I don't think anybody is like in there.
Here, I'll post mine in there too for activity.
Yeah. There. Paste it in the chat in case you're not in the Slack.
I guess I could have posted it as a code block. Oh well. And I'll probably edit that because it's just kind of random snippets. But I agree. I like using the Slack because you can't post this stuff in the YouTube chat from the chat logs. YouTube hates code, so um, we'll reference the Slack.
And I don't know if is that something like, is that a snippet that would be worth putting onto the Koha wiki?
I think anything's worth putting on there. I mean, as long as somebody can find it and understand what you're doing with it, it doesn't hurt to put it out there. I mean, the more you share, the more people can use it.
Uh, I'm gonna. I'm writing a proposal. One of my goals is to reorganize because they're, yeah, you know, the notices slips, not the notices slips. The SQL used to be a page like about 50 miles tall, and then somebody came along and reorganized it into different types of reports, and that's what the jQuery kind of needs, because there's so many bits and pieces out there. It's just, and it's all on one page, and so it's got, you know, a ridiculous number of things in it. And so it'd be nice if it was broken out into this works on these pages, you know, go here for circulation jQuery, go here for reports jQuery. So that's what I'm hoping to do in the next year. So put it out there, and it might not be in the same place next year, but it'll be there.
Yeah, that, I think that would be a good idea if it was like organized. Like, there's probably more than one way to organize it by kind of the topic that it relates to in Koha, but also maybe another way is like by what kind of functions in jQuery is it using? Like, so you could like use it as a kind of a reference to learn about different functions you could use, maybe.
So, George, what are you eating for lunch? That's the subtitle of this web dev.
I am at home this week because we had a water leak in apparently for the last 17 years, water has been leaking into one wall of our office building. And about a month ago, Robin noticed, oh, there's this behind the whiteboard on the wall in her office. There's this giant growth of mold, and the drywall, you could just poke your finger through it. And when they came and did the mold remediation and took all the drywall out, like the whole sheathing and all of the supporting wall there was all rotten. And so all this week they've been cutting into the wall in Robin's office and fixing things. And my office is right next to that. And so I have opted to work from home. So instead of being there with all the noise. So I actually haven't had lunch yet because I am at home. So that was a hell of a long way to get to. I haven't had lunch yet. Sorry, I can't help.
Oh, that's okay.
So what's the topic? I might have come in at the end of something. So
Brendan was sharing his code to pre-fill some stuff with branch code. And he had put that in the jQuery channel in the community Slack. So we were talking about using that more to share some things.
Cool. Yeah, I think I saw what he had written in there. So
and then we also talked about what the one he posted above that. We're trying to get make sure somebody's logged in, only giving them a message once when they first log in and then disabling it afterwards. So we talked about maybe using cookies for that.
Yeah, that's the only way I could think of, because I saw that, and I think that's the only way that I can think of that you can do that. And we tried something like that. It wasn't me, it was Dan at SEKLS put something on our OPAC where it was supposed to give patrons a survey about the OPAC when they logged in, and it was only supposed to do it once. And I think the way that they set that was with a cookie, but then there were problems. And so there were a lot of patrons that said, every time I log in, I get this damn survey. And I think it was because the patrons had their browsers set so that it was, killing the cookies at the end of the session or something. But there was one person in particular that it just made them angry every time they went through our catalog, they got asked to take the survey.
Well, I'm only going to do it to our staff, so I don't know.
Yeah. So screw them, right?
Well, that's a good point, to make sure to test it really well before annoying everybody.
Yeah, I want to do something like that too, because I just want it to happen once a day. So once you get it figured out, I'll see if I can figure out a way to do it once a day. What I want every time, once a day, when somebody logs into the staff client, I want them to have a reminder that they need to follow our privacy and confidentiality policies. So that because that has you more and more. It's potentially an issue more and more here in Kansas with the way laws are changing, just to remind people of what is confidential and what is not confidential, and what they've already theoretically agreed to. You're reminding them to do what they've already theoretically agreed to do.
All right, I'm gonna fish for more topics here. What else have we been doing? Questions you've got, cool stuff you've been doing. Kelly, I feel unmuted. What's up?
Started working on this yet, but I wanted to ask you guys if you foresee any issues with what we're trying to do. So I don't know if anyone else is using Aspen too, but we use Aspen for our main registering cards for people. But we're also wanting to use Christopher's driver's license plugin to register people, but that can only be used on Koha. So we're potentially going to be using them simultaneously. So is there any issues you can see with using two different OPACs to register people, if that's not going to work, or if we can move forward with that?
Aspen just plugs the data into Koha through an API,
Yes.
right? Then I
Yeah.
don't see why it would be a problem to use the Koha OPAC to scan the driver's license for that
Okay.
part of the process.
Awesome.
I'm assuming then that you've got the right barcode scanners to do that and everything.
Yes, we do. Yeah. It was just we couldn't get that working with Aspen, so we're just kind of getting scrappy with it. So just to make sure that nothing gets messed up in the back end before I start building.
Yeah, Christopher's plugin, his jQuery is designed to work on the staff client, but I don't see why it wouldn't work on the OPAC too with some modifications.
Yeah, that's what's gonna probably be. I think we have it set up on the OPEC, but I haven't tested anything, so we'll see. That sounds like good news, so thanks.
So other people do use Aspen, so it's okay to talk about Aspen stuff here too.
Yeah, you could talk about whatever you want here, actually. I don't care.
We
I won't be able to help, but and I don't think Jason will be able to help, but there are other Aspen people here.
we had this one of those issues where like we're using Koha but with Aspen on top. So when you're working with like a third party, we're working with a third party app developer trying to get it integrated, and it's like, well, if you integrate it just with Koha, you're missing all this other like stuff. The main thing in Aspen is this table called the format map table, and it basically like it shows like the item types, what they can be, what kind of holds, like bib or item level holds, and if it should be suppressed, and what are valid pickup locations, and I think that's mostly it. Does so we need to like export that table out of Aspen, but it's like very not easy to work with. So I wrote some jQuery that parses through the table and creates a link that you can click to download a CSV. So that was another it's a little thing, but just kind of like dipping my toes in little things that you can do like that. I pasted that in the Aspen Slack, but I can find it probably. I really like how Aspen handles adding the jQuery snippets, because it's like you put in a snippet and you get to give it like a name, and then it comes up in like a list instead of all being one giant text file. So maybe that could be like an enhancement for Koha.
Sounds like a good bug to open.
So I have this thing that I've been working on that I'm just pulling up here. So let me share my screen. I was talking about this to somebody a little while ago. So I've had issues with library staff that will only check email. They won't check the digest button. And so I've got some jQuery, and it's working right with this one. But it's not working right with item 2, and I don't know why. I need to figure it out. But essentially what it does is when you check email, it automatically checks digests only. And theoretically, you can't turn off digests only, although for whatever reason, I've got this one isn't working right. And so I've almost got it figured out. But the reason I wanted to do that was because we have, after years of training people and telling them the difference between email and digests, they still don't get it. And so just a couple of weeks ago, I had somebody that said, this patron had like 45 items checked out. Why do they get 45 emails saying item due, item due, item due, item due, item due, item due? And I said, it's because you didn't do this. You didn't check the box that says digest only. And then I explained to them again for like the fourth or fifth time, this is what that box does. And then they go, oh, I didn't know that. And I said, I trained you on it when, at least twice. I mentioned it at meetings in the past. And so I figured that the easy way to get around that discussion is just to make it so that if email is checked, digest is also checked on those two notices. So, but I'm having trouble isolating that problem with why it works on the pre-due notice, but I can't get it to work on, I can't get it to disable unchecking the item due digest only box. So there's probably some other piece of jQuery in there that's interfering with things. So I need to take it apart piece by piece and figure it out.
I was this is a side to that. If you check the digest only box, but you have email also checked, it only sends you a digest, right?
Yeah, if you check email,
if you have both.
Yeah, if you just check, if email is the only thing checked for pre-due or due, then the patron will get one email for each item that's due that meets those requirements. If you have email and digests only checked, then you will just get, instead of getting 25 emails saying one item is due today, you'll get one email saying 25 items are due today. And if you only check digests, which you used to be able to do in Koha, and don't check email, then you get nothing.
Oh, so you have to check the email.
Yeah, both of them have to be checked. And it works the same way for the SMS messages. If just SMS is checked, then it sends one per item. And if SMS and digests are both checked, then you get, if digest is checked, then you get one text saying you have 25 items due. And that I've got in there too. So if you put in a text number, I've got it working the same way too, so that you can't turn off digests if you've got text turned on. And they work. But the one thing that I can't figure out is why digest only on the item due notice is still not doing exactly what I want it to do. I just need to beat my head on that wall a little harder. But there, once the code is figured out, there will probably be a video about it. So maybe a week from Thursday, even.
I was trying to think of stuff that I've been working on. I'm like all over the place lately. I did reverse engineer / harvest Lucas's code to run overdue notices on a page, and it was working, but now there's no notices in my test server queue, so I can't show you. I don't know what happened there. I guess they did some cleanup and I didn't realize it. But I still haven't gotten it totally figured out for my situation, because I think I mentioned in another meeting, I've got every library has 3 overdue notice templates, so I can't use that as a drop down. So I need to, like, I think that if I instead tie the notice sending email address to the branches table, and then I can use a branch drop down, I can do it that way from that angle. But I haven't gone there yet. And then the Kids OPAC, we've officially launched it for testing. So we have it up and running at kids.seekandfind.org, which is in chat. If anybody wants to take a look, we're still very much just testing it. I've only got 2 libraries using it right now, but we're going to put out some little usability tests for the kids with like stickers or emoticons or something, and get some feedback on that. So I was excited about that. And I have made a few minor tweaks to it since I talked about it at conference. I did find once we put it into the live server, the Hoopla stuff was popping up and I didn't want that. So I had to write some extra code to get rid of that. But other than that, I mean, it's functional. We're moving forward with it. I think there's other stuff I was going to share today, but I can't think of it. So somebody else talk.
Are those items like in there, are they like color coded somehow?
Where at?
Like if you just go to like a record, then it says more items like this, and there's like all different colors when you hover over them.
Oh, it's just random. I guess I can share my
Just
screen
random.
while I'm Well, I think I got that one from Barbara. So you mean like if we go to a detail view of something, these colors on the right
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just alternating through. Like it's first item, second
Um,
item, third item, fourth item, fifth item, sixth item. It's like an nth of CSS rule. Just to make it more fun. It doesn't actually mean anything.
that's nice.
I also did that with the navigation tools. So I don't know. Oh, they were covered up here. So like we've got different colors when you hover different things. There were a few things. There's something that I think it's actually like a proper Koha bug. I found that when you click on the cover images, it doesn't give you those options up along the top. So I had to write some code to bring that back in. It's the query descending search parameter. It doesn't get appended to it if you click on the cover image from the search results, but it does if you click on the title. And like I said, I think that I need to file an actual bug about that because if I go to my live OPAC, it behaves that way too. So like if I click, let's go further down, I click the title, I get the browse results over here. But if I click the picture, I get the browse results over here. Maybe it was just um, a bug that's been fixed already, or just something that I don't know. It's working now. Look at that. Never mind. Ignore me. But yeah, I mean, it's moving along. I'm excited, pleased with where we've gotten with it so far. And thanks to Barbara and Lucas because they helped a lot to get it to that point.
I still need to incorporate your sorts and limiting because I think that's a lot better than all I was able to do was bring in the regular sort and filters, and I like what you did a lot better. So.
Oh, I do have code to fix the back button too. I did file that on as an issue on the actual plugin, but like the back button, Lucas had it hard coded. Like if you go to the next page and then click back, it would break the search. But that's mostly fixed. I think if there's more than one search parameter up there, like more than one keyword, then I lose all my keywords. But I figured most people won't notice that. Most people don't go to the second page of search results anyways. So not too concerned about that one.
I'm sorry, did you say that the kids OPAC is like a plugin that you install in Koha?
Yep. It's on Bywater's GitHub. I'll find the so
we had a kids OPAC with our old system, but I guess like nobody really liked it. So maybe this one looks nice, I think.
So
You've modified it a bit, haven't you, Jason?
Right. So you'll get some of that when you out of the box. Lucas has put in some of my changes, but if you need the rest of the code, it's not up to date now, but I put it on my GitHub. I'll put that in the chat too if I can find it. And it's just a CSS box and a jQuery box in the plugin, and you just paste that stuff in just like you would if you were modifying Koha. but Lucas is slowly, as he finds time, kind of incorporating bits and pieces of it. I mean, the biggest struggle we had with it was the getting the URL set up with the custom subdomain, because we had issues with the security certificates, and that was the thing yesterday. But it's all fixed up now, so we officially went live with that yesterday. And there's my CSS and JavaScript there. Mostly up to date.
But Bywater managed the this SSL certificate. You didn't have to do anything like
Yeah,
about
yeah. So there was an
It's just
issue with how
troubleshooting.
they did it. Yeah. There was a mistake made, and then they quickly rectified it after everybody started getting warnings. But you do have to, there's some Apache stuff that they have to do to get it working. And you have to have a separate URL to go to, and they set that up too. Like, we've got a subdomain that's like kids-sekls.bywatersolutions.com that it's actually living at, and then we just redirected our custom domain to that. So there's some backup and setup that they have to do, but you can't just like download the plugin and run with it.
I think it's looking pretty good.
Now I can work on other projects. I have like stuff I want to do, so maybe next month I'll have something I can actually show. One of the things that came up this week was so we use a patron attribute to know whether the patron needs to be called or texted or whatnot, because we predate that main contact method, which would make sense to use. But everybody's using the attribute anyway. So I want to set it up so I want to move that attribute down to the messaging preferences area, and then if they check the email box or the text box for holds, I want to pre-fill that, because there's a lot of extra clicking and it's not in the right place right now. So a lot of libraries don't realize that they can even do that or need to do that. And then what came up was the patron got really mad because they get the email and they call them at work or something, and it was a big blow up. So just improving that form. And then what was the other thing that came up? Oh, we started having a problem where Koha will pull in the 942C from other Koha libraries and let the record save. So like I'm getting other libraries item types, and then that pulls into the item record, and then when you save it, it blinks out. So that breaks everything, because you have to have item types on things. It's never done that before. Have you noticed that at all,
At
George,
the
or anybody?
problem. Yeah, do with that. I'm one of the what we're talking about. Yeah, it's been a hassle for like that I'm running a couple of times a week to look for things of non-normal item types.
He's frozen on my screen. I don't know if that's my internet or your. It's him.
We
Okay.
have the Valnet.
I did write a report, which I can share to find those. Are you back, George?
I think so.
We can understand you for the most of that.
One of the things that's been helping us with this 942C issue is that I've got the Valnet Library Consortium promoted to the top of the list, so that if anything my people are trying to import through Z3950, if there's a result at Valnet, that's at the top of the list, and they usually just go for what's at the top of the list. And Valnet, the item type for book is the same as our item type code for book. So
I've just never like it's never been a huge problem. I ran this report um and found maybe 20, and a lot of them were just fairly recent. Like um it just seems strange. There were some older ones, but I don't know. I thought that it prevented that. And then I tried to use there's a protection thing where you can protect
Yeah,
fields on import, and that didn't work at all. Like,
and I think, and that's the bug that Lauren was talking about in either cataloging, or it might have been at the conference. There's a bug related to that, and how it's not working. The other option I think would be to, there's a XSLT,
transformation thing
there's
on
a
import.
transformation thing you can add to your Z3950 targets to kill any incoming subfield nines if you're using authority control, so that you won't get all those local numbers in your
Oh yeah,
incoming records. And
that's
I
on the
think it
list.
wouldn't be hard to write one to do the same thing with the 942 data. But then I think you would need to post it somewhere in the it'd need to be created, and Bywater would have to post it on your server somewhere where it could be accessed.
Yeah, so my idea was I was just gonna write some jQuery, which I'm not looking forward to because that's a select to drop down. That basically says if it's not in my list of standard values, it needs to be blanked out. Um,
That's on my to-do list also.
all right, well, if you get it done before me, let me know.
I'm in the middle of doing an address cleanup for one of our libraries, which is why, hence the zip code thing on the page that I shared incorrectly.
Nice.
So I doubt I'll get it done this month.
Well,
Maybe it's something we can talk about at KLA.
yeah, let's talk about it at the Kegger. Let's just turn the Kegger into a session where we write
Where we
jQuery that
complain,
we've
yeah.
been backburnering.
That can be the whole conference.
Heck
Kansas
yeah.
Library Association conference is coming up.
Okay, that's my laundry list of problems with nothing exciting to show you guys. What else? What else do we want to talk about today? If anything.
Speaking of addresses, I think it would be really cool to get Koha to do address verification through the post office's API. If you could enter a patron's address and then click on a button to say verify that this is an actual, real, honest to God address when you're adding a new patron, that would be something that would be really cool.
We would love that.
Yeah, I'm right now, that's what I'm working on for our Bonner Springs library. They're funded slightly differently through their county because their county is a unified city county government in Kansas City. And so they have funds that come to them from the county government, and the county government wants to change the way they're allocating funds. And in order to do that, they need a whole bunch of patron data. And the problem is, like with everywhere else, that the patron address data is crappy. It's poorly entered, badly managed, and barely maintained properly. And so hence the big address cleanup. I'm using OpenRefine to go in and do some matching to do some cleanup. So
we're doing a project with a vendor called Kipu. It's actually like a statewide project that all the networks in Massachusetts are doing for the self-registration, and they do address verification to verify that it's a real address. And then on top of that, there's they can verify that the name is associated with that address sometimes. So there's there's a double level of check. So if you pass it's a real address, but your name is not associated with that address, it can be like a provisional type of card versus, so we're in the process of doing that with the vendor right now. But I know that to do that level, I think, I'm not sure what the USPS APIs are like, but to do that kind of verification, there's usually like a cost. I think at least the name part. Maybe the addresses could be done for free.
So long as you're doing the USPS API, the rules are as long as it's for non-commercial use, it's free. But I haven't looked closely enough at the API to see how hard it would be to integrate with Koha. It'd be really nice though if Koha could just send some data to the API, get a verification token back saying, yeah, this is correct or this is not correct. One of the things I do like about Koha compared to other ILSs I've worked with is at least when you're entering somebody's address, at least there's a drop down to select city, because that I did a cleanup one time in Idaho, and I lived in a county where there was Genesee, Gennessee, and Julietta, and Beauville, and there's like a bazillion ways to spell each of those words. And in Koha, just having the drop down set up so that people don't have to type the city is it makes a huge difference.
I wonder if you're integrating like another API, like let's say the US Post Office API or any kind of API that you need to have an API key, that would really probably have to be like a plugin versus just using jQuery, because like you won't be able to like securely have that key somehow. Wonder how does that typically
Yeah, so
handled?
like if you put something in your jQuery, it shows on your page source and your staff client.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about that sort of thing for sure.
Yeah, like I said, it's something I'd like, but I haven't looked into it too closely yet, other than to see that, yeah, there's an API, and yes, it is free for non-commercial use, but I haven't gone much beyond that. So
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I was looking up there. We can found their documentation here. We can put that in as reference.
yeah,
We could
that's what I
also
was looking at the
integrate
other day.
package tracking into Koha for our, as an extended service.
Wow.
So I wonder if you could like keep the API key like in like somewhere else in the Koha database, like in a patron record or something. And then so then you could use the Koha API to like get the API key. So you wouldn't have to put the API key in your jQuery.
Right, that makes sense too. There's probably a way it could be hidden in a library record. I can think of a couple of different ways it could be hidden somewhere securely. So I don't know, it just sounds like more work and more of it.
It sounds worthwhile though. I think that one's worth pursuing because
Yeah,
we've got messes as well. Anything to reduce the bad data is a good idea.
So would you envision it being like a something in the patron record that you click a button, or something that you like report, like you run a report and it just like goes and verifies all the addresses in your whole system?
what I envision, what I would like is something that when the staff member or when a staff member is creating an account, they can click a button that's in the patron record when somebody's going to verify an account or to create an account on the staff client. There's just a button there that sends the address data to the API, to the USPS API, and gets a result back that this is a valid address or this is not a valid address. That's what I envision. Having a report that does that, that'd be cool too. I I think there are companies available that you can send your address data to, and they can send it back to you cleaned up, like sending your bib records out to be cleaned up.
Yes, we've done that, and it was $20. A mere $20.
For how many patrons?
I don't believe there was a user limit, but we have about 120,000.
Hell, why aren't I doing that?
The
Yeah,
only
it
thing
seems-
is that you have to get the data out of your database in the format that the company wants it, which is generally isn't a big deal, except for the ILS that we're on. City and state is usually combined. So I went through an effort to permanently separate city and state, because why would you ever put those together? And then once they give you the output, you've got to massage that into a format you can feed directly back into the database. But True NCOA, that's the company that we used.
That sounds too easy. I think I'll try the hard way first. I do have, I think I showed that off already. I do have some code where I'm using the Google Books API to fill in a brief mark record with a button using the ISBN code. So I feel like it's the same sort of thing, except different. I have the button made.
Well, I'm gonna have to look at your system and harvest that once it's done, because that's definitely something that would be handy.
Yeah, it's real hit and miss. I mean, mostly because Google's data is hit and miss. So like sometimes you don't get much. A lot of times you don't get much, and it's still ugly because I didn't actually go back to it after that first try. But I'll get back to it eventually. Oh, we talked about it at the education committee. We wanted to make sure that this group was also digging into pages. So if you're doing cool stuff with pages, have cool ideas with pages, bring them to this group. And we'll talk about them because it's pretty web dev adjacent. So I'm excited about the thing that Lucas did with notices, because we have this issue with our print notices. We're using the fallback right now. So like if the print notices can't be sent, they come to an email that looks like it's coming from me, but it's actually coming from Koha. And for some reason, when we switch to using SMTP, those messages get caught up now for one specific library, so I have to forward it every morning, which is super cool and fun. So I really want to get the page set up where they can just go in, put in today's date, or I can even fill that in, and then they can just go print them from there. And also having that content editable is going to be nice, because they do have to go in and modify things once in a while, which put me down a whole other rabbit hole of redoing my overdue notices into a nice fancy table with Template Toolkit, which I don't know anything about really, but it's going. It looks a lot nicer at this point. I've got a few more things I want to do with it, but I think it's going to save a lot of staff time, because right now they have to take the notice, pull it into Word, format it so that it fits in the little windowed envelope. If I can get all that stuff set up in the templates where all of it is hidden print, I think it's going to save a lot of time. And it's going to take away that piece where the emails can get lost on the way between me and them. So another project, like I said, all over the place. 12 things at once. I really need to work on my project management skills on the to-do list.
I'm still working on things that I started on 7 years ago when I got to Kansas. So there's plenty of projects.
Yeah, plenty of work, not enough us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got about 4 minutes if we want to round out the hour, or 11 minutes if we want to round out the full hour from when we started. But I'm cool with stopping here if there's nothing else to talk about for this month.
Speaking of hours, hi, I'm new here. I usually spend time in the cataloging SIG, but I'm trying to learn as much as I can since we are probably going to start using Koha sometime next year, hopefully. I'm all the way in Sarajevo in Europe, and I was following the conference and noticed a couple of things that I'd like to include in our OPAC, and that's the business hour module. I think I saw it on the, I think it was modelbywater.com. It's basically a list of days and hours with the current date highlighted. And I was wondering how to include that. Is it something that can be done with CSS, or do you need jQuery, or all of these things are still over my head, but I'm learning.
So my guess is that they've built out that hour list in as an HTML customization, which is in the tools area. It's probably in the OPAC credits selection. I'll just show you. It's easier to show, right? Let's see. Let me find a window. We can use, okay, this is on my test server. So if you go to tools and then HTML customizations, I've got some stuff in my OPAC credits. So I'll show you what that looks like. We don't actually have hours because we're a consortium. So I've got other stuff going on down here. But like if you wanted to put the hours there, you would create an OPAC credits block for all libraries. And then that's just basic HTML. I'm trying to decide which one of these I want to pick. We can look at the main footer. Yeah, so that's where I've got that in there. So I've just coded that out so that I'm iframing in that. But for your hours, it would just be a list of hours with dates. And then if you want to make it look snazzier, you would use CSS to get your alignment right and whatnot. I had the model site pulled up. Hold on. No, that's not it. Let's just. So putting the content in is just going to be the HTML. The styling, as far as getting it left aligned, right aligned, is going to be CSS. And then I would guess that this highlighting is done with some jQuery, which you can go here. You can right click on the page and view the page source and see everything that's going on here. So we can even see they've got if we inspect this, we can see what classes they've used. So library info is the whole footer, hours is this chunk. They've got the little clock symbol, and then we can see that they're adding a color style on the open day. And then over here, if we look at the page source, we can sort of dig through and see what they've done. So we can see they've added some padding, they've added the float so that the text goes left or right, all that sort of thing. And you can keep searching through there.
And how do I recognize the highlighting, the command to make the current date highlighted?
That's a great question. So I'm not really sure how they're doing that.
I think
George.
there was a blog post on Bywater's website, and I just put the link in the chat box there.
Ah,
I think that might be what they're doing, but I'm not 100% sure. Model.bywatersolutions.com.
Yeah.
well, I can certainly go and look. Thank you.
I'm surprised that the JavaScript's not coming up in the source. It's got to be there somewhere.
It must be like checking the date, and then you get back a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the day of the week, and then it checks. It goes to that child in there and adds the style tag. That's what I would guess.
Yep, here we go. This is it. So they're declaring the date. They're adding a class, and then they're coloring the class, which is probably explained better on this thing that George
Right.
just linked. So
And then I
I'd go off that.
suppose, right, that would be included, it would be added into the jQuery for the OPAC, just like I would add CSS in the, what is it called? OPAC CSS?
Yeah, OPAC user
Window?
CSS and
Yeah,
OPAC
OPAC
user
CSS.
JS. That's where those would go.
All right, thank you.
So that was a really crash coursey, but if you need help with it, feel free to reach out. You're on the Slack, right, Aida?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so feel free to ping that jQuery channel or the web dev channel if you run into problems, and I'm sure one of us can hop in and try and help.
I was just looking at Lucas's instructions, and it looks like some of the code goes into OPAC user JS and some of it goes into OPAC main user block. And so the instructions look pretty clear cut.
That's great. I'll try it.
Okay, any other questions or things you guys want to talk about before we wrap up? I pull up my crickets, but it takes too long, so we'll just pretend like we're hearing crickets now. So yeah, we'll meet again next month. Are we in the Thanksgiving area? Maybe we won't meet again next month. Let's look. No. So next meeting is Thursday, November 16th. So we'll still plan on having that. So we'll see everybody then, right? Yep. Thanks everyone for coming.
Bye.
Once I have lunch, I'll post a comment on what I eat in the YouTube video.
Okay. We will
Keep
be
it
waiting with
consistent.
bated breath.
Sure.